Okay. Testing, testing. Okay. We are back, hopefully live. I'll check while you're talking, Doc, but we're definitely recording for the podcast version, so that's good. I apologize for that. But before we got cut off, you were talking about estrogen levels and exactly why you think they're so high these days.
Well, a friend of mine, it's a truck driver, complained about his junk shrinking. And he's about my age, a few years younger than me. And the point of the story was, I said, actually, you're going to find out that the wrapper that they're wrapping all our food in is all the fast food wrappers, which you're seeing. How do you get away from the wrapper? We have to fight the wrapper. Can you still hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now, my point is, now the bottom line to all this, you're going to have to make your detoxification pathways crisp. That's the secret. The foods that people eat aren't opening the pathways to get these plastics and chemicals and estrogen out of the body. The normal diet does not include the things necessary. And let me show you a couple examples. I don't think Michael J. Fox cleared the pesticides well. If you go down in Florida, where all the people are spraying their house for bugs, you're going to see a lot of shaky people down there. And a lot of medications interfere with those pathways. Mm-hmm. And a lot of foods have to be included in your diet to keep those pathways open. Chemicals and poisons are tricky to get out of the body, and most people have not included the necessary things in their diet to facilitate that removal. And when I look at a guy like you, I will tell you, at my age, graduating in 75, there was very few drunk driving tickets, and we tried pretty hard to, and we just didn't do it. Today's kids, it's a totally different animal because they can't process the alcohol or the chemicals like we did. And you're seeing it get worse with each generation. And because a lot of the medications are interfering with those pathways that the lawyers love to hear about, because the people blowing 2s, 3s, and 4s have a medication history. And people are not aware of that. It's got a lot of people in trouble in a lot of different ways, from tremors and shakes to DUIs. And they don't understand that their liver runs the show.
Right. So that makes sense. So when you're looking at people that are displaying some kind of weird, odd behavior, whether it's like getting, drinking too much alcohol and their levels are just way higher than normal, or they're showing signs and symptoms of Parkinson's disease or any of these sort of chronic degenerative diseases, what you're saying is these new chemicals that we're just talking about they're just stuck inside the body. They can't get out.
Until, like, for example, there's 2 major problems we had here in Michigan. One, when we thought we won the war in Vietnam, we got stuck with the dioxin, which was left over from the production of Agent Orange. And when they checked the state, it was in so many places that they just basically shrugged their shoulders, closed the notebook, and went home. There's no possible way to clean it up out of every lake, stream, waterway, etc.
Interesting.
And number 2, what you've seen lately is those perfluoroalkyls, all those flame retardants, the stuff that when you go to Art Van to buy a chair, if it doesn't have enough chemicals on it, you got to spray that slippery stuff on it, which the guy's going to talk you into, which is exactly what we just talked about. So we're going to get some extra chemicals on the chair to make sure that you're surrounded with them 24/7. And I love to watch the men. They got to drink out of plastic. And if you've watched any of my stuff, at my next lecture, I'm going to show a guy his PSA. It's a guy in his 40s, and when they put a plastic bite splint in his mouth, his PSA doubled in a very short period of time from putting a plastic bite splint in his mouth. And men are being trained to sleep in plastic in their mouth all night. You should see some of the interesting things that's done to my patients, and I've stirred up the world talking about plastic bite splints. Because they tried to put one in me when I was about 6 for playing hockey, and it tasted like licking a balloon. And to put a balloon in my mouth was about the last thing I'd want to do.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of interesting little things that we've been tripped up with. And plastic bite splints all night that you're dissolving and eating over your lifetime was one of them.
Now, do we know in terms of plastics, like there's obviously, you look at the bottom of a bottle and there's different numbers there that determine whether or not they're technically safe. But in my opinion, I don't like using any plastics at all. I try to reduce my consumption of anything in plastic. Every now and then, you're in a situation where it happens, and that's why we do what we do, right? Our detox, methods and things. But there's plastic everywhere. This computer that's sitting next to me is plastic. That phone behind you is plastic. Are these things off-gassing to some extent, or are these kind of, more innocuous, do you think?
Well, I think it's an excellent thing to say that, because one of my favorite topics to talk about outgassing, I said, we have a Macy's in here in Michigan. We got 12 Oaks. You go to Macy's. I want you to go to the fragrance department, and I want you to walk in there and find the lady that's worked in that department the longest. To be smelling that glue for 8-10 hours a day for 20 years, depending on the medications they take for their runny nose. You're talking to somebody, I don't mean this disrespectfully, but it's kind of like a clown, kind of like a bimbo. The amount of chemicals that they've inhaled, you can spot how long they worked there by the dress, and it's like a whole different, your brain has no filter. To stand around that kind of smell, all of your chemicals are there's no filter, no blood-brain barrier to handle that stuff. People do not understand how toxic these smells are over time, and the fragrance department is a great place to demonstrate that. It's amazing how our body acts like a sponge. So today when people are running around trying to identify these little chemicals, how do we avoid all this? It's so overwhelming. The biggest problem we have is malnourished bodies like to absorb things. Minerals and metals look the same. Lots of things like to go back and forth. You will absorb toxic things if you don't have healthy things. Lead and calcium can go back and forth. Zinc and cadmium can go back and forth. So if you're not well mineralized, for one thing, you're going to absorb heavy metals. And if you don't have your liver working well, you're going to absorb chemicals. So there's pathways that have to be addressed, particularly depending on certain people's jobs and stuff. People that work in factories have to watch, obviously the metals. People that work in the chemical industry have to watch much more of the chemicals, and that's completely different. And I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, we played outside enough, and I actually sweated a lot through my life. And I don't think most of the kids out there have ever broke a sweat.
I know. Most people are just, the closest thing to get to a sweat is a video game or something, right?
Correct.
It's interesting you say that about the chemicals and things like that, because my wife, who's my co-host, not on this show, but on different shows, she had to quit her job. She was working cutting hair as a hairstylist, and she did this for about 13, 14, 15 years. And she was just getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And she has all kinds, not now, but fortunately she's done a lot of work, but man, getting all of that stuff out, cleansing and detoxing, breathing that Brazilian blowout thing that they do with women with all those chemicals in your hair. I don't know how women are still alive, especially going into, recently I went into a nail salon. Have you ever been in one of those? Crazy.
Absolutely. Now, it's funny that let me ask you this, since you brought that up, and hopefully your wife's listening to this. Who's worse? Now, can you hear me?
Yeah, who's worse? What do you mean?
Okay. I know if I look. Okay, that's a strange question. The black people or the white people?
In terms of...
the hair salons.
Oh, gosh.
If you went into that hair salon, I've had the most lovely black females come in my office. Now, listen to this. I'm going to go straight to your wife's problem.
Okay.
These ladies come in, they got fibrocystic breasts. They got fibrocystic uterus. They got cysts everywhere. They got enlarged uterus. They got cysts on their ovaries. They're swollen. Their breasts are the size of a leg. They got those huge derrieres. And when I explained to them, do you understand the estrogen-based hair care products that the African-American community has dunked you in so many chemicals, estrogen, placenta-based chemicals, that it's skewered how you've developed. And this lady looked off in space and she said, for Pete's sakes, we all look like this. Exactly. What they've done with those products, particularly took out the black females' faster than the white females. Those are huge. I always wondered, why do these people have some of these unusual shapes? That's all exogenous hormones, and their body can't clear any of it out. So where they've grown into those weird shapes that you're not used to seeing ever in your life anywhere. Mm-hmm. And I always wondered about that. How could that possibly? We weren't designed to look like this. And mm-hmm. when I showed those gals, if you don't take your detox pathways and your mineral pathways serious, this job will kill you, just like it was killing your wife.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like for most people, the average person doesn't understand how damaging just breathing a chemical is. Like they think, oh, if I ingest something, for example, or if I put something on my skin, maybe that's bad. Eat something in a food, they understand that. But a lot of people don't understand just how toxic it is to breathe things into your lungs. And that's a real issue, isn't it?
Very, very much so. You know, people do not understand the stuff on your skin. I used to tell people years ago, if you want to know how sensitive you are, take a peeled clove of garlic, put it in your shoe, watch how long it takes to smell it on your breath. It's 5 minutes. Wow. You can smell it coming out of your mouth, and people don't realize that's how permeable you actually are. You know, it's kind of funny to ask a question like this. One of the stories some of my patients have heard, up north with my relatives, standing outside with my lumberjack relatives in Vanderbilt, Michigan.
All right.
We're sitting there at about dusk, and Uncle Orley says to his wife, B, go get the bug dope. So that was the big thing up north. And she ran inside like Edith Bunker and came out with the bug dope. And they sat there and they covered themselves in this toxic spray from the top of their head to the bottom of their feet, and it went around in a circle. And when it came to me, I politely passed it along because I wasn't really involved in this. And everybody stopped and asked me, hey, what's this all about? I said, look, man, I'm only out here for 10 minutes. I don't want to smell this stuff all night. And bottom line is, all my cousins who worked in the woods that used industrial strength DEET thought they were punished because they worked a long life, got some weird cancer, and died. And they never understood how that happened. Well, I remember standing out that day, watching them cover themselves in bug spray. Wow. And think nothing about it for an entire lifetime.
Yeah, it's so unbelievable. I mean, right now in our place where we live, we've got some ants going on. And our landlord wants to spray our entire place with ants. And then, there's a couple termites that he saw. Now he wants to spray with termite stuff. And it's just like, it's to the point where it's so many chemicals, and we're just being bathed in all of these chemicals that, we were never meant to be around. Our nervous system, our body, our immune system was never meant to deal with all this stuff.
If you go to the beach, one of my favorite things at the beach is watch that lady that's completely out of shape put bug spray and sunscreen on her kid to play outside for the first time in the sun.
I know, right?
Drinking a Diet Pop.
Yeah.
Usually drinking a Diet Pop.
Yeah, and
just
wearing,
look at the kid.
Yeah, and wearing sunglasses and covering up their skin and, not exposing them to the nature's elements. It's crazy, right?
It's crazy. And it's just sad that, our natural, my son, Dylan, the heli realtor, made a comment. When people try to tell him, how come you're out in the sun this much? He said, did you ever spend a day in the sun and feel like you wasted it?
Good point.
So when they said stay out of the sun, I live in Michigan, and we're pretty excited to stay out of the sun. I have black people in Michigan that have been trained to stay out of the sun.
Wow, that's even.
And their vitamin D, and their vitamin D is about a 10. When their vitamin D is a 10, you can guarantee their cholesterol is about 300. Now that their cholesterol is 300, they got to take Lipitor. Lipitor causes diabetes. No D, Lipitor. Now they're diabetic. Now they're on a beta blocker and a water pill. Beta blockers and water pills cause diabetes, so now they're double the diabetes. You got to get that flu shot in there because you're getting checked for your blood pressure. And when you got good insurance and they die at 63 of about 3 diseases, working for the big 3, they think they got a deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's prevalent so much in our culture. We're going to take a little bit of a break right now. When we come back, we're going to talk more about maybe some blood testing and maybe how do we get these chemicals out of our bodies that are just sort of displacing minerals in our body and having all kinds of deleterious health effects on us. So I hope you guys are enjoying the show. If you want to check out Dr. Tent's website, it is diversehealthservices.com, and you can check that out. We'll put a link to it at the show page, extremehealthradio.com/664. And, one of the things that I like to do is to jump up and down on what we call these days a little Bellicon rebounder. And I'll bring it up on the show page here. And this is a really tremendous way to flush out your lymphatic systems. And I mentioned this before that we have more lymph fluid in our body, lymph fluid in our body than we do blood, which is crazy, right? So it's really important to flush out your lymph system. And your lymph system is filled with one-way valves that open and close. And it only does this through manual stimulation. So if you're laying in a bed all day, your lymph system's never going to work. So the best way to do that is using something like G-force and gravity, acceleration and deceleration, and then gravity and G-force to help open and close those millions of one-way valves so that the toxins that you're exposed to on a daily basis can help get out of the body. And so we have a really cool audio clip here of a guy by the name of Dr. Lloyd Jenkins, and check out what he had to say. Whoops, maybe it's not playing. There we go. Let's restart that. Turn that on, restart it. Okay, check out what Lloyd Jenkins. On the flip side of that, you have to have some sort of a way of mitigating the stress that's in our life, right? So you have to have some kind of exercise. What kind of exercises do you recommend there at the Budwick Center?
Well, every room is equipped with a rebounder or a mini trampoline. So we really believe in the little mini trampoline. I noticed you're advertising that just recently on your program. We feel that's one of the safest, most gentle and effective lymphatic cleansing things that people can do. They're not expensive really, and they can just do a few minutes, maybe 2 or 3 times a day. So lymphatic drainage using the rebounder is very important. Someone who has advanced cancer, we just have them mostly do the trampoline, and they can even sit on the trampoline if they have to and bounce up and down, but some kind of exercise to keep the lymph system moving, and so that they don't because if you don't do anything, your body just wears out. The body has to work, the heart has to pump.
The heart definitely has to pump, and this is one of the best ways to do a manual stimulation through the up and down motion and G-force of a rebounder. And I'm telling you guys, this is one of the best things that I've had. If you follow our Instagram stories, you see me just about every single day. For me, I do mine for about 30 minutes every single day outside, full spectrum sun, no sunglasses on, grounded to the earth, out there breathing fresh air and being exposed to all the earth elements while doing a rebounder. So I highly recommend it for disease prevention, staying healthy, staying limber. It's great for bone density as well as stimulation and circulation, carrying oxygen throughout the body. It's just one of the best things you could ever do. Check out what Judy Mikovits recently said about it.
And let's think about the simplest thing. I used to do one of those rebounders for exercise back in the 80s and things like that. And it's a wonderful way to move your lymphatics, because a lot of these toxins simply clog up the highways. Think about LA. That's why I take the train, because you can't get there from here. There's so much road construction, narrowing down to 3 lanes here and there. That blocks it all up. That's with the lymphatics. That's with the blood. That's why we see all this swelling and inflammation. And then all of these toxins are talking to the cells that say, I have to go repair. And overdoing repair causes cancers, because you need to turn that off.
Yes, we had Dr. Mikovits on the show a while back. Really great and tremendous guest. She was awesome. Plaguethebook.com is her website. And I'm just a big fan of making sure that you do a rebounder every single day. And what I like about the Bellicon is that it uses these flexi ropes instead of those loud, noisy springs. And I've had mine for 8 years now. And I recently was the first time I had to replace the ropes, and I do it outside in the sun. These things are built to last. The legs fold. You can put them underneath your bed. You can do it while the kids are sleeping. It's quiet. It's silent. You can watch a video or do it outside. It's a fun exercise, and it's one of my favorite go-to exercises. And something else that I like to do during, sort of in at the same time as this is I like to do the rebounder, and then right after I do the rebounder, I open up all of those detox pathways in my lymph system, and then I jump into my little relaxed far infrared sauna. And what's cool about this thing, what I love about it, the biggest thing I love about this thing is that your head sits out. And from an Ayurvedic perspective, that's what 6,000 year ancient healing tradition. In India, they always say to keep your head and don't let your head get too hot. But one of the cool things about this is that you can watch a documentary, you can watch a video, you can watch something on Netflix while you're sweating for 30 minutes. It's really cool. And so that's one of the things that I love to do is sweat every single day. Typically, I'll do my sauna or I'll do my rebounder for 30 minutes. And then right after that, I'll do my sauna. And check out what Daniel Vitalis had to say about this.
Use your sauna. I know you guys promote saunas. I won't go on about that. But I think it's important to use saunas because they help to increase body temperature. There's a lot of great benefits to that. But some that I like are that in wild nature, we experience hot and cold. And at room temperature, which is a domesticated thing, we don't really get to feel metabolic extremes. So I think it's really good to challenge your body to cool itself and to heat itself. And so because I'm saying heat itself, I really recommend cold showers. Let's say 80% of your showers and cold. Oh. Right? You don't have to do it every time, but most of the time, if you end your shower cold, you'll start to build up your resistance to cold. And you'll also really tonify your skin and also kind of help to wring your body out at a detox level. That's really important.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you can do from a detox perspective with these saunas. You can put castor oil packs on your liver while you're doing that. You can do a nice and flush. You can do lipospheric glutathione or lipospheric vitamin C 20 to 30 minutes before you get in the sauna to increase your body's ability to detox. And here's our biological dentist, the coolest guy ever, Dr. Stuart Nunley, talking about sauna therapy.
You know what I chose to do? I chose to go very, very slow as I detox. So one of the things that I did is I invested in an infrared sauna, which was huge. That was a big, big part of my healing because, interestingly enough, many times patients who have heavy metal toxicity lose the ability to sweat. And so I was one of those. I could not break a sweat. And the infrared sauna helped me to retrain my body to be able to sweat. It was a huge part of my overall detox.
Doesn't Dr. Huggins say, as long as there's more going out than what's coming in, you're okay?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think he's right. I think he's absolutely right on that.
Yes, Dr. Stuart Nunley talking about his journey through overcoming, I think it was diagnosed, I don't know if he's diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, but he was pulling out tons of mercury in people's mouths. And he went through an intense period of his life where he was having issues with what he thought at the time was Lou Gehrig's disease. And I'm not sure if he was officially diagnosed, but part of what he did was high-dose vitamin C and sauna therapy to get these toxins like mercury out. And you should see him now. I mean, we just got back from Texas. He's an incredible guy, and he's doing triathlon, strong, works out, amazing guy. And, sauna therapy was a big part of his recovery. So if you guys want to grab the sauna or the Bellicon Rebounder, if you guys are watching on YouTube, there's links down in the description below. Or if you're listening on a podcast, just go to extremehealthradio.com/664, and I will put links to both those products as well. And I want to bring Dr. Tent back on because I'm really curious about his thoughts about this inability to sweat, because we're just talking about that, or Dr. Nunley was just talking about that. Dr. Tent, I'm curious, is that seems to be an issue I see a lot with people, is they can't sweat right. And is Dr. Nunley correct about that? Like a heavy metal, maybe mercury toxicity there?
Absolutely. But before I answer that question, you guys are giving such great advice. There's a Bellicon trampoline right behind my desk here.
Oh, cool.
And I go straight to hockey from here. I've been skating with a bunch of guys for a long time. And this guy cornered me one day after I've been skating 6-7 years with these guys. And he said, "Randy, can I talk to you for a second?" I said, "Yeah, what's the matter?" Yeah, I was waiting for a heart question, some complicated health question. He said,
right.
How do you skate like you do at this age? You skate like an animal. I said, "I've been on a trampoline for 42 years. And one guy said, "Aren't those bad for you? Your kids will get hurt." I said, "That's why your kid can't chew gum and walk." I said, "I raised my kids on a trampoline."
Right.
So you're giving great advice. And I'm going to tell you right now, in the middle of Michigan's winter, the people with the best balance have survived the falls very well. And the balance that I've gotten from the trampoline and the sturdiness to play hockey with the right supplements. That's how I survived playing 4 games a week at 61, because the trampoline has kept me tight enough to handle this journey, and it adds a density to your body that you're not going to get at the gym. Trampolinist will run over a gym rat and he'll keep going. He'll take out 3 gym rats at the same time because we're denser. We're used to the tug of the earth. It's a totally different thing. I take the people who think they're in shape at a gym, I put them on a trampoline for 15 minutes. They want to get off in 10 because they can't do it because they're weak. And they don't realize how weak they are. They have 12 strong muscles and that's it. That's the last one you want to deal with as a trampolinist, because I'll guarantee you the trampolinist is going to win. I read the book when I was about 18, The Miracles of Rebound Exercise by Al Carter. The guy could do 40 one-arm push-ups. He never did push-ups. He was a trampolinist. The guy was a beast. So you're giving great advice, and I can't endorse that enough because it'll make you stick out as you age from the people that don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So back to the detox.
Yeah. I'm curious because, with the sauna therapy, I've never really had an issue sweating. I've spent a lot of time outdoors. I've always taken care of myself my whole life. I'm 43 now and just continually do more and more things to take care of myself. Never had an issue with sweating, but I know it's an issue, and I know that Dr. Nunley was just talking about that because he was mercury toxic, and I'm sure you've come across that, right, where people just can't sweat?
Well, you got to take a good look at your thyroid because there's a lot of subclinical thyroid cases around. But I mean, when people talk about sweating, most people, look at this as an isolated event. I mean, when I talk about the hockey that I do, I could care less about hockey. I would never work out this hard. I need to find a way to rev my body up because I think that peak 8 exercise that people talked about, 90 seconds on, 30 seconds off, that aggressive exercise workout, you got to push the machine like the doctors you were talking about. And learning to sweat is a fantastic way to detoxify. They claim you can get about 50% of the poisons out of you through your skin if you sweat successfully. And with your, you got a very intelligent client audience here. And the more fat you got, the more places you have to hold stuff. You want to try to get as much fat off you can because you don't store stuff. And I wanted to go to the bathroom and show my steel cylinder. I'm going to use the steel cylinder as much as I can because I don't want any more plastic than I have to. And people can talk about a safe plastic, and I understand there's safe plastics, but I don't know if that safe plastic was sitting out in the sun because I can taste some of that plastic that sits in the sun and it tastes funny. We gave plastic to our kids, plastic pacifiers to our kids, plastic bottles to our kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, plastic everywhere.
And aluminum lined juice boxes that I've seen on the kids. And I got the 3 healthiest kids recently that came in with hair analysis because Ma just wanted to check on how things were going. One kid stuck out so bad, I just looked at Mom and said, that kid eats tuna fish. She said, that kid loves tuna fish. And his hair analysis was bad enough that it actually looked like he had a bad vaccine rather than a tuna fish eater.
That's so interesting. So I want to talk a little bit about this. Like, as far as, there's 2 sort of sides to this. So we know that we're being exposed to plastics and chemicals and heavy metals, right? These types of things in our environment. So we know that's happening. So what are your thoughts about measuring that and getting a test for that? There's blood, there's hair, there's urine, there's all kinds of ways to test. And then once we know that we are high, or if we suspect we're high, then there's processes to get that out. So before we get to the getting out part, how about testing? Like, what would you suggest as a starter test that someone might do to test these levels of chemicals?
Well, things that we've been doing for years, which the medical community always made fun of, a tissue analysis, hair, nails, etc., they thought was funny that people were doing. But if I watch those crime shows and they dig up a body, they do the same tissue analysis, and you can get charged for murder if that tissue is full of arsenic, lead, etc. That's that Black Widow lady. All those bodies were full of arsenic, and they did tissue samples to find it. So a hair analysis, it's kind of funny that you asked that. I just sent mine in yesterday because I've not done a hair analysis since, my dad had the best insurance in the neighborhood. So I grew up with all kinds of John Hancock Blue Cross. I went to the doctor all the time.
Right.
You ready for this?
Yeah.
This is what it looks like when you got good insurance. This is what your mouth can look like.
Oh my
These are
God.
implants, and those are mine.
Wow.
So a life of leg aches and nosebleeds in front of a pediatrician that never saw leg aches and nosebleeds. I was like the only child in his practice. All my friends had poor fathers without good insurance. So I went all the time, had all the things done that poisoned me. The dentist did as much mischief as he could. So I want to see what my titanium levels are, and I don't think there's any better way than to do a hair analysis. I've waited a number of years.
Uh-huh.
I'm not a real seafood eater. You should see what people are coming in with in their 30s. I've had a number of Oriental people. Some people have flown in from Japan and others. And looking at their hair analysis, I said, what do you possibly eat? And they looked at me and said, everything out of that China Sea, the Japanese Sea.
Really?
It's what they're 35, complaining about some of them. Some people work with the government in Lansing. Chinese people were sent to me from Lansing. Memory problems, 35. Their hair analysis was a catastrophe. I could not believe how bad it could be just from their diet.
Wow. You know, it's crazy too when you look at I'm not sure if it's China or Japan, but they have what they call now over there the celibacy syndrome, which is basically that men and women are just no longer interested in having sex at all. And there's
Correct.
low testosterone and all of that. And some people are saying it's because of so many of that culture looking at their blue lit screens. Some people are saying it's the toxins in the chemicals in their environment. But man, this whole thing is a really big deal.
That when my son walked by with all that Axe spray on,
Oh yeah.
that is a straight estrogen. I said, Dylan, that stuff's going to make your junk disappear.
Uh-huh.
And I say that because that gets their attention. If I say that's not healthy, that's a pure estrogen. That's such a horribly toxic smell. And I know people think that smells wonderful. If you really understood the base of that, they just had a scent on top of a base. And if you're taking the wrong medications, that stuff will vacuum into your body easily.
Wow.
So it's keeping those detox pathways open. Chlorophyll is a very important part. I want healthy blood. I don't eat the Brussels sprouts broccoli, so I have to take intelligent supplements to keep my detox pathways. We put this stuff on diversehealthservices.com because people are puzzled at what's this slow drift to mankind. And I don't mean to say this, but me and my wife were in the Apple store at 12 Oaks about 2 weeks ago. And I'm here to tell you, I said to my wife, there's 43 genders in this store. I feel like I'm in a zoo. And God bless them all, I swore I was in a zoo. And I watch humanity, and nothing makes sense anymore. And if you're under 30, you might think it's always been like this. Guys my age know it was never like this.
Right. Yeah, I'm a little younger than you, but I'm not 30. And so, yeah, I know what you mean, though. I see both sides. I see what you're saying. And this weird kind of thing that's happening in our culture where you've got all these genders and all these things and pronouns, and you have to refer to people as ZSE for he or she. You know, there's, Harvard and some of these elite colleges are now sending home with kids pamphlets for them to give to their parents so that their parents can be educated in terms of how they refer to these students and children, with proper pronouns. Like, it's crazy what's happening these days.
I couldn't agree more. And I'm going to tell you, driving down the street, you can tell who they voted for.
Yeah.
It's very clear. If you're doing 55, you're in the right lane, you got all those bumper stickers on, you're that guy with that almost facial hair, I know exactly who you voted for. I mean, when I was growing up, we had fights at school. We had race cars. We went out, we hustled girls, we drove cars fast. It was like the 70s.
Yeah.
Now you watch the kids today, they went straight to like depression and mood swings. And at 17, 18, 19, it's the moodiest, weakest bunch you've ever seen. And to deal with all these kids complaining about being depressed and wore out at 17, 18, those are the greatest years of my life.
I know.
How could you possibly, I say, if you're miserable now, wait till you see what your dad feels like. The layoffs are going. I had the layoffs I've had this week from wonderful men and women that worked at Ford, GM, and Chrysler. They're laying off good people. They're not laying off the lazy people. So everybody wants to spend money all day. Dad's all stressed out, and people are getting the pink slip right now just because of corporate mismanagement. And ask your dad how stressed he really is. If your kid's that worked out, never having a job at 17, I'll guarantee you I got a lot of stressed out men right now that I'm holding them together and keeping them together while everybody wants to spend all their cheese. And they know that their head's on a chopping block, and I feel bad for them.
Yeah, I hear you. It's amazing what's going on. So you mentioned before you did like a hair test, and I know, like we mentioned, that there's blood tests, there's urine tests. What can people look for if they want to look into getting some sort of testing for these types of chemicals? Because we were talking before, this is kind of a part 2. If you guys are watching on YouTube, for some reason we got caught up in part 1. But we're talking about before how there's 60,000 new chemicals introduced in our environment since 1960. But that's like environmental toxins. That's environmental chemicals. That's not necessarily chemicals in our food, and that's not including chemicals that are in these prescription medications and things. So we're just being bombarded. I would imagine that the average Western living person just living their life in a normal way in 2019 is going to be exposed to thousands, literally thousands of chemicals in a day. So how do we test, do you think, for these chemicals?
A hair analysis is, the simplest, in my opinion, most cost-efficient way to do it.
Okay.
Number 1. Number 2, with that controversial chemtrail thing, I listened to how you about you're using your Bellicon trampoline, which I have 4 in my house, actually. Everywhere I go, I'm bouncing. You're detoxing properly with, the infrared sauna. Making sure nutritionally on the inside, 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, 3 essential fats. My pregnancy protocol, which I include in my body every day because I eat restaurant food. I have to shut down all these pathways because I'm going to start absorbing things that aren't in my diet by other things that look similar. So number 1, it's very simple to say, I got to get rid of all my heavy metals, but you can vacuum them up if you're not closing the doors, because so many things have similar oxidate. Chromium, hexavalent chromium was that Aaron Bravakovich rocket fuel thing. Chromium makes my pancreas work. It's just a different oxidation state. There's like a CR6, there's a CR5, arsenic. You got to have arsenic in your body. Ask the average doctor about arsenic. Oh my gosh, that's ant poison. You have to have a level of organic arsenic to make the body work. They don't understand that. They thought selenium was toxic till 1980. Selenium, selenium makes the body work. It's a big cancer mineral. It's a big viral mineral. It's a switch. It's a key. Not having enough selenium, that's the Brazil nut thing, is huge. So making sure that you're closing down those pathways is just as important as detoxing, because when people start detoxing their body, that's chelation. So when people want to come in and do all this chelation, I'm like, you understand, metals and minerals are cousins. I'll be pulling both out of you at the same time. So when you start chelating, these deficient people are just toxic. You're actually even pulling their minerals down at the same time, and they don't understand that.
Interesting. Okay, so heavy metals and minerals are cousins, and so when you do chelation therapy, are there different types of chelation therapy that don't pull minerals?
No.
When
you chelate, you're going to chelate. The word means claw-like.
Okay.
I've watched people, you chelate long enough, and I've watched people come in here 6 weeks into this. They're all excited because they saw something on the internet, which has got everybody all messed up. So they want to chelate. So they're the gym guys. They're chelating. 6 weeks into this, they snap their bicep. They pull their Achilles tendon. I've watched them do this. How did this possibly happen? Well, you're 6 weeks into chelation. You haven't put any minerals in, and your body's starting to give way. People are snapping. Cipro will make you snap a tendon. So today, you watch what happens. All right, you ready for this? Geez, President Trump, Donald Trump's looking at Lou Ferrigno. Geez, Lou, on Apprentice. Geez, Lou, you look pretty good. Do you still work out? He said, no, not much anymore, Mr. Trump. I've had both hips replaced, both knees replaced, and a shoulder replaced. What about you, Mr. Trump? Do you work out? He said, are you kidding? All my friends that work out look like you. I don't do nothing, and I feel great.
That's hilarious.
Now, if you go to the gym right now, You're going to find out, let's go to the closest gym. And by the time we get through that, there's going to be a train wreck by the time you get to the other side, listening to what they've been through, pushing a body on this food, their little protein drinks and their smoothie. There's not enough density. I've been playing hockey 4 nights a week for like 30 years, and I play over 40 with a bunch of animals. Between my trampoline and my minerals, I got to keep my frame strong because it's a train wreck watching what people are trying to do, exercising without doing it, thinking that the prescriptions is the pathway to health.
Yeah, that's such a black hole when you go down that road. We're going to have on a guy. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. I'm sure you are. You're in this world for so long, since 1981. Richard Ulrey, I think, and he wrote a book called Minerals in the Genetic Code. I think we're going to talk with him about minerals. But I mean, minerals are the key, aren't they? They're just so critical.
He's going to be the smart. You tell him I said hello. Please tell him I said hello. He's going to be the smartest guy. I had to follow him at a doctor's seminar. And I said, I'm humbled to follow like the smartest guy that you're ever going to talk to. He's brilliant.
Oh, wow.
So tell your audience to take a protein shake that day. I learned from that man. He's a great man, and he's going to take you to places you haven't been. And I want to know, make sure I know when that is, because I definitely want to tune in to hear Richard Ulrey.
Oh, cool. Yeah. He's a fascinating guy. I've listened to a bunch of his lectures and things on YouTube, and really, really impressed with his work. And his understanding of minerals is unlike anything I've ever heard before. And, it's interesting because years ago I was, learning about raw food and eating kind of more of a raw vegan back in the early 2000s. And, I was learning about minerals and how, it's possible for food to grow and for, oranges to be twice the size that they are supposed to be, and orange trees growing in Michigan and in the middle of winter because of minerals. And the name of the game is minerals. And what are minerals doing in the body? Are they like sort of conducting an electric charge and allowing the body to create energy, or what's happening, do you think?
What they claim, you can't use vitamins without the mineral cofactors to make it work. Vitamins are worthless without minerals. And you can sit and discuss how many starving vegetarians you've seen, because they had 1 million vitamins without any minerals. And some people could come to mind. Steve Jobs might be one. He had 1 million vitamins. He didn't have any minerals. It's tough, and it's very easy to be a vegetarian if you get your minerals, your iodine, your B12, your fats and oils. Well, you don't want to keep that suppleness to your skin. There's some simple things to make it work, but if you don't do it, you're going to get yourself in some trouble, just because the body has to have certain things to make it work. So that pregnancy protocol, those fats and oils are huge, because you're watching the wrong fats and oils, which makes everybody look that dry, crusty face that you see everywhere. Like the John McCain look.
Yeah.
God rest his soul, thank God.
Right. Yeah, it's fascinating too when you look at minerals. I think there's 92 that we sort of know about, and the average person. I think I read somewhere where like a tomato is supposed to be, it's genetically encoded. Correct me if I'm wrong, to uptake 56 minerals or somewhere around there from the soil 57. If it's available. 58.
I was just kidding. I could not correct you on that. I was being facetious. I could not possibly correct you on that.
Yeah, so it's supposed to take 56 or whatever the number is. Doesn't really matter from the soil. Right. But, the non-organic, conventionally grown tomato, I think it uptakes less than 10 minerals or something. It's crazy.
Now this is my patients that know I'm a fussy eater. I eat at restaurants. My lovely wife, I don't really want her wasting time in the kitchen. She's too valuable doing all the stuff that she does.
Right.
I live off my shakes and stuff because I don't consider that there's much in the restaurant food that I eat. So I supplement myself with that because I have to stay held together, and I don't want to fill up with things I don't want there.
Yeah, it's interesting because Ty Bollinger, who I'm sure you're familiar with The Truth About Cancer, and one of the reasons he says the exploding cancer rates in today's culture is toxicity and deficiency. And on the deficiency side, if we're talking about minerals, if we're not getting all those minerals in our body, then vitamins don't work and all kinds of things break down, right?
correct. It's like I had this, I'm going to say a name, a patient that had the name of Joan Jason.
Mm-hmm.
She has passed now. She spent a lifetime with me. I basically just did mechanical stuff with her. But as she was dwindling away with ovarian cancer, looking like a skeleton, I said, Joan, I've never really pestered you for supplements because that's not your thing. But I want to talk you into doing the shake. It's a shake that I do today.
Uh-huh.
Look, you look like you're dying, and I know you look like you're dying. So I put her on the most expensive shake I could do, which I do. Believe it or not, it's $300 a month. Restaurant, all that stuff's done. The grocery stores. I live off simple foods and 2 shakes a day. She walks in, and a month later, and she's pink. Now, her son had done some heating and cooling at my house. I said, what do you think of your mom? He said, I can't believe this. Now, she lived about 2.5 years, and the point was she was starving to death before the cancer was getting her. That's half the cancer patients. People are starving to death. There's nothing in the food.
My goodness. Now, when you said the cost of that shake, did you say it was $300 a month?
Yes, $300 a month. That's what I talked Joan into doing. Honest Injun. If you guys watch all my lectures, and I started doing Joan's shake because I watched what she did, and it's like I'm doing whatever this happened to her. I kind of as I got older, and my body needs more intense nutrition, needs less calories and more density.
Uh-huh.
That's where my shake started from. I pulled Joan, and her son just looked, you got to be kidding. And in the literature, when they say half the cancer patients starve to death, that's how sad it is. So I started playing this serious shake, which I'm not here to peddle that shake. And I do 2 shakes a day. I play hockey 4 nights a week. I have a genetic clotting factor that I know what it is. I tried to get my brother to pay attention to this.
Oh, yeah.
He said, I'm not interested in this. He's had 3 stints and a heart attack. So I know what genetics I have for the heart.
Interesting.
I know what my past history is. I push my metals out, clean up my arteries, try to detox, and plug those 91 things so I don't have open holes, because I eat restaurant food and I'm being poisoned 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed to work well for me. And as a Polak, I try to eat like a Polak. I don't try to eat like an island person. I try to eat like what has worked for my ancestry with clean foods and stuff. But I got to put the wind at my back. And saying all that, you could still get clipped with some nasty cancer out of left field. Like 6 of my friends with brain cancer, 2 have had Lou Gehrig's disease, 2 have had Parkinson's, and 2 have had lymphoma. My friends. So if you tell me we got great health care, it's like I jokingly say I got applications for friends because mine are all dead and sick.
Wow. That's crazy. Do you have any YouTube videos or things explaining what's in that shake?
Not really, but it's on my website.
Okay.
And if you guys, I would find, and I'll make sure that somebody takes a picture of it and gets it there, even though I understand what you're saying, because I personally gave up on the food. Because I'm going to tell you something. If you go to Trader Joe's and you go to Better Health, if you go where all the health stuff is, where all the health people are, they're a bunch of kooks a lot of the time. And the Rolling Stones are healthier than most of them, and that have traveled along well. So I've tried to take health and made it a normal thing because we're kind of a real sick bunch. And when I lecture to the doctors, I try to bring this up. You know, you don't look that well. I know you all got your little tangents that you like, but we have to go. When I go in the hospital, the doctors and the nurses look so sick most of the time, and they can get away with that. We're judged a lot harsher. So I have to look the part more because they don't trust me to start with, because I'm doing that crazy stuff that doesn't involve chemicals and poisons. And it's kind of funny. So I got to kind of live what I do. And a lot of times I find people doing this. For example, that famous guy on TV, that foreign fellow that everybody kind of likes, and said, you got to go get your kids vaccinated.
Oh, right.
And when they caught him off air and they said, you get your kids vaccinated, he said no. Now, I find that absolutely criminal. If you're a doctor and you're talking people into doing what you're not going to do, you might have to answer for that one day.
Uh-huh.
So it's funny to watch people not live what they're talking about. And I'm just very open and upfront about this because I can't tell you something I'm not going to personally do.
Mm-hmm. And who was that doctor that mentioned that? Are you able to say that?
Well, Dr. Oz.
Oh, Doctor, that's right, Dr. Oz, that's right. Yeah, he didn't do it, did he?
This is not a secret. And they said, what do you mean you didn't get your kid shot? His answer was, I'm not Dr. Oz at home.
Oh, that's right. I remember him. I remember that response now. Isn't that interesting?
Now, you're on TV influencing millions of Americans. That's criminal in my book.
Yep. So, Doc, I'm curious, with your level of health, you said you're 61, you've been playing hockey 4 nights a week. And hockey, man, talk about an intense and physical sport. Whew. So you've been doing that 4 days a week. And I'm curious, like, with your level of health and your perspective, do you think you can go another 40 years? Could you be 100? Can man live till we're 100, 150, do you think?
You know, the thing in my going against me, I got a bone graft infection in my face when they were putting my implants in, and my first real operation left me with a gift that keeps on giving.
Uh-huh.
I had 7 of those polio sugar cubes. Those things are little ticking time bombs that you just get that little surprise thing in your head.
Right.
So I've worked as hard as I could to keep the wind at my back, knowing that if something happens, at least I made an attempt at it, because my friends are getting thinned down pretty hard. And my hockey league right now has been a complete catastrophe this year. Dr. Platt dropped dead. My coach had his knee replaced. He's 53. It's his 6th operation.
Whoa.
Dave had his rotator cuff done. The ref fell and broke his shoulder in 3 spots. It's been a total catastrophe. I've had 3 broken wrists, a broken back walk through this door, 2 broken legs, and 2 broken shoulders. The tensile strength of America. When you guys talk about this, let's explain something, because you guys are really awake and you're a smart guy. I'm enjoying the questions that you're asking. Glyphosate is a chelator. We're being chelated daily with all the stuff that we eat. So most of these people are starving anyway, because that's how that glyphosate Roundup stuff works, by pulling the minerals out. And make sure you get Dr. Ulrich on that topic. He's a genius. Get him on the glyphosate topic. He'll have a blast.
Oh, cool.
But so the people are being chelated just from our corn chips and our tampons that are cotton made, and our clothes. We're being bathed in glyphosate. So we're being pulled, minerals are constantly being pulled out. And Dr. Ulrich, his mouth to my ears said manganese is the #1 mineral being chelated. So with the torn rotator cuffs and the men that sneeze and their back goes out, I'm so aggressively on my minerals because I play, the reason I play hockey is because I've never exercised that hard.
Mm-hmm. And you know what's interesting too with all this? It's crazy because on one level we have such a deficient mineral food supply, right? Like I've heard it said, I don't know if this is true, but I've just heard it over the years that like you would need to eat 56 peaches today in order to get the same minerals from one peach in 1950. Whether or not that's true is debatable, but if that's true, we have such a deficiency in minerals, and then you have glyphosate chelating the minerals out of our body that exist in the food, but it's chelating such a low amount, so it's stripping away what little we do get, which is nuts.
Now, how can you and I relate to this? The reason I said this, I started to say something, I lost track, was the only way I can explain this to you is you got people that like fruits and vegetables. I'm a very poor example of that. Ask grandma if the stuff they're buying at the store tastes like the stuff they had as a kid. The people will tell you this does not taste like the stuff I had as a kid. The minerals gave it the taste. So all the cardboard stuff that the young people got used to, because it's just full of sugar now, so everybody loves their fruit because it's all sugar. But the people say it doesn't taste like it used to because there's no minerals in it, but they don't know what it is. The minerals gave it that unique taste from 40 years ago that is gone today.
Yeah.
So ask the old people that question, they'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. So what little minerals we are getting from our substandard food that's being given to us is being stripped away from the glyphosate. And it's interesting. We had sort of the main glyphosate person out there, Stephanie Seneff, on a while back, and she was talking about how she's kind of guessing. She's doing a little research and she's kind of surmising in her own mind because she was saying that glyphosate, we're discussing where we're getting all this glyphosate from, and she was saying that because 10% of fuel, it comes from ethanol corn, and corn is most of it is heavily sprayed with GMO and glyphosate. we're actually breathing this stuff from the exhaust from the cars now. So now it's airborne, not just in our soils and things like that. And I thought, oh God, if we're breathing it, that's one more thing to worry about, you know?
And you brought up a good point about Russell Blaylock has done some fantastic work, and I've used his stuff at my lectures. And he talked about how important keeping the mitochondria up. And he talked about blueberries, and he talked about the berries and how important berries are. And you read this article, which is fantastic, and I use his stuff, and I've used it in a pill form because when you get to the bottom article, he said to get a therapeutic dose of raspberries to restore mitochondrial function, you got to do like a pint or 2 pints a day, and the amount of you have to pound, I think it was a pound a day. Wow. It's ridiculous because you can't eat that much. But there's supplements that have the seeds in it that is what I use as a shortcut.
Yeah, that's so man, oh man. So yeah, like this, one of the things that I talk about a lot on the show is that, with each new environmental assault that's happening, like for example, in our neighborhood, we live next to a church and in between a church and a school. And now one of the big tech companies out there just recently is now paying the church that we live next door to $50,000 a month to put one of their 5G towers up right next to our neighborhood. And they're actually breaking the law because the law here in California says that it needs to be within 300 yards of the closest residence. It's actually 297 yards. Somehow they're getting away with it. But my message is like these things are popping up everywhere, new chemicals, new toxins. And so we just, in order to live a default healthy state life, we have to do more and more and more, don't we?
Have a grounding sheet on your bed?
We had one for a while that we put right into the ground through a stake. We didn't go into the wall, but now we use a Magnetico, like a magnetic mattress pad, a 10 Gauss magnetic mattress pad. But yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Trying to, when it comes to electricity, if you can at least get it going through your body, and that's why, reading that stuff years ago, understanding, I've never touched, it's been 6 months. I've not touched the ground in a good 6 months with my feet. Mm-hmm. And I kind of notice sometimes that my body can get kind of busy, surrounded with all the Wi-Fi and electricity. And I wore out one grounding sheet on my bed. And just where we live, if you can keep that door open, electricity appears to go through you if it's got a way out. I'm just trying to say, I don't know, outside of keeping your channel open with that electricity, how we're going to fight the 5G. And I think it's going to take out 20% of the population. And there's stuff coming up about that I'm going to talk about.
Whoops, I think we lost him. Oh my goodness. Man, oh man, oh man. We're having some real tech issues. This time, it's not our internet because our internet is working, it looks like. So that's working. Maybe he just froze. Hopefully we'll get him back on. We just wanted to close up the show anyway. I wanted to ask him if people work with him. But this 5G stuff that we're dealing with right now is one of the most horrendous. I think since the advent of electricity in 1879, this is the biggest environmental health change, environmental hazard that we've made to our environment since 1879, in my opinion. And if you look at the disease rates from 1879 to now, correlates with electricity and non-native EMF and blue light and all this stuff, and especially now 5G. This is a massive assault to our health. And so, one of the things is that you can work with different technologies to mitigate that, right? But while you're doing that, you also have to make sure that you're doing everything else in your life. So like make sure you do your sauna, make sure you do your rebounder, make sure you do your PEMF pad, or you're getting out in the sun, or make sure you're doing all these other things to make sure you get optimal health. Because if you're doing all the wrong things in those areas of your life, and then you're being bombarded with 5G technology just on a daily basis, 24/7, bathing in this this magnetic blanket that's being put out by these 5G towers, then you're going to set yourself up for all kinds of health issues. And so that's why, like we were just saying, that we need to do everything, optimize our sleep, make sure our diet's good. We have to do so much in today's culture. It's just crazy what we have to do. Like, you go back to, like, you know, if we did all the things that we can do in today's culture, just by doing all those things and making sure that you're taking care of your health in all those different levels and areas, you're going to be about the state where someone was in 1850. Just because they weren't living with 5G, they weren't living with all these toxic chemicals and plastics, and they weren't living with the stress of going to a job and being in debt and having a home life that's crumbling, and all of that stress on you, and living in a box and driving in a box and going to work in a box and living under fake light and dirty electricities in the walls and fake food and chemicals and our poison in our air and things like that. Like, that person just had none of that. And so it was super easy for them just to live a long, healthy, disease-free life, right? So imagine if we're able to sort of mitigate all of that and do all the good things as well on the other side, like your sauna, like your detox, like getting outside, eating fresh food, organic food, and growing your own food too. That's another big thing that I think is going to be super, super important, because we have to start thinking of more ways to take care of ourselves, like detox baths, you know, making sure that you're doing colon cleanses once a year, taking care of your liver. Like, it actually kind of bums me out a lot, because, like, I don't want to have to do all those things just to maintain an average level of health. I don't want to have to do all that stuff. But unfortunately, it's just the way the world is these days with the toxins and chemicals and things, that if you don't do those things, the statistics say 1 out of every 2 men and 1 out of every 2 women, it used to be 1 out of every 3, are going to come down with some kind of cancer diagnosis in their life. That's not to say that we're not actively dealing with cancer cells all the time. If it weren't for cancer, we wouldn't be alive. Cancer is not something, it's not a boogeyman. It's not something to be afraid of. It's something that we deal with 4 to 7 times on average in our entire life. Our body gets on top of it. It does its job and re-educating the immune system and carrying over new dead cells and things, and that's what cancer is there for. But on average, there's 4 to 7 times in someone's life they're dealing with an active cancer. Had they been diagnosed at that time, they would have come up with a cancer diagnosis, right? And then they would have put through the system of chemotherapy, radiation, all that stuff, surgery, bone marrow transplants, all that stuff they would have been exposed to. But the majority of the time, people die from things other than their active cancer cells. And so, but all that to say, you know, if the stats are 1 out of every 2 people in today's culture, I mean, we're clearly doing something wrong, right? I mean, like, years and years and years ago, dogs didn't die of cancer. Now it's like, it's more than 50% of dogs are dying now of cancer. Certain breeds, it's almost 100%. You know, and human beings, why are 100 or 50% of us dying of cancer? This is something that we're doing. It drives me crazy, because I got into this whole thing. I don't want to be doing, all this. I don't want to have to go do my sauna. I don't want to have to, but all this information that we're sharing here today should be taught in our school systems. We should be taught how to take care of ourselves. We should be taught how to do detox. We should be taught about light water magnetism. We should be taught about fitness, about getting outside, reconnecting with nature. We should be taught these things. But we're not. We're taught all this useless information in school that doesn't help us to do with anything. It doesn't help us. Not only that, but aside from the health, stuff that we're taught in school, we're taught all the wrong financial, advice in school. We're taught not the correct information about our history. We're taught all this wrong stuff. And not just that, we're not even taught the right stuff to help take care of our biology, to balance a checkbook, to start a business, to take care of yourself, to do the work that you're supposed to do, and to build character and be the kind of person you were supposed to be. We're not taught any of those things in school. And so 1 out of every 2 people, I got involved in this whole thing from my mom's diagnosis in 1995 with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. She was diagnosed out of nowhere, seemingly. We didn't know what was going on. At that time, we didn't hear much about cancer. And this was only 1995. This wasn't 1975. This wasn't 1955, 1965. This was 1995. I never really heard of anyone dying of cancer. There was one girl who died in our high school of cancer, and that was really the first time I'd ever really heard of it. But this rocked our family. And subsequent years later, we learned a lot more about why we think that happened with her. And I have some really specific understandings now as to why she might have been diagnosed. But 50%, I mean, I can't imagine that you guys listening or watching this particular broadcast has a life where they've never been affected either directly or indirectly by cancer. I can't imagine it, because now it's either our friends, our family, our close loved ones, relatives, husband, wife, dogs, animals. I mean, it's the plague of our day. And like I said before, it is the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I want to educate people and to bring information to the forefront that shows people that there are other options besides what you're being told in medical school, on commercials, on the TV, on the mainstream media. You have other choices, but they don't want you to know that, because if all of us become empowered people, then we would empower ourselves and protect ourselves from the damaging effects of our environment, which cause cancer to grow, right? So we would be preventing cancer as a culture. So instead of 50%, it might be 10%. And then of those 10%, if people realize that 90% of that 10% starts with a natural solution, then that cuts into pharmaceutical and the big pharma revenue service and all of that in a massive way. So then you're limiting now 50% of the population all the way down to like 1%. And they don't want you to know this. This is why you're not taught this information in school. They don't want you to know that you can run your own life, that you can be autonomous, that you can be free, that you can take care of your health, that you can do all these things without the intervention of perceived authority figures. And I like what David Jubb said about authority. It's in our culture, for some reason, we have this submission to authority for the sake of certainty, because we want an authority figure to tell us certain things about how the world works, or how the body works, or how any of this stuff works, because it makes us feel certain. And when human beings feel certain, they feel like they can rest. And for some reason, in our culture, we want people to come and take care of us. And so we've never really moved beyond the infant stage of development and growth, so that we can actually begin to be autonomous and self-reliant. That's something that we haven't. That's a level we haven't achieved yet in our culture, is to be able to do those things. And so that's part of, one side of life is your health and your life, right? And so making sure that your health is dialed in and understanding how the body works and preventing disease is a massive act of rebellion, really, because you're saying, I'm not going to end up like my family members. I'm not going to end up like them, because I'm going to take some sort of action to prevent that. And that's within the realm of all of us. And so this goes many, many layers too. And I mentioned this a lot on our show, is that it doesn't just start with the physical aspect of health. There's the light, water, magnetism side. There's the spiritual aspect. There's the emotional aspect. All of these things, I believe, personally, we come into this life with a sacred contract, and that we make. I believe we existed before we came into this world, and the Bible seems to indicate that. People have, I don't need to defend that, but that's just my position. And we come in here to learn certain truths and to learn certain lessons, and that's why we're here. And so getting to that level is the deepest level that we could all go for making sure our health is optimized. And so I believe that we have, like Robert Scott Bell says, the power to heal is yours. It really is. It is in our hands if we get to a deep understanding of the subconscious mind, of how the body works, and living in a way that's connected to nature and connected to ourselves. I don't want to see my friends and family. I was going to tell Dr. Tent that I'm seeing friends and family diagnosed with cancer. I mean, I had a high school friend of mine. She died when she was 36. I'm 43 now, but she died when we were both 36 of colon cancer. I'm seeing friends of mine from high school whose 16-year-old son just died of cancer. I'm hearing cancer from my mom's church. Everyone in her church has cancer. I mean, we're clearly doing something wrong, right? We're clearly, as a culture, as a society, we're doing something wrong with how we're living, with what we're consuming, on a physical, emotional, and a spiritual level, what's coming into our being. We're not putting up any kind of barrier to that, and we're allowing everything into our God-made temple, and we're wondering why we're sick. And it's up to all of us. It's not up to me to help you. It's not up to some other doctor to help you. And it's not up to any of these people to help you. We all must help ourselves until take on the onus of ownership, right? This gift of DNA has been gracefully given to all of us. And when we pass that DNA on to the next generation, is it going to be weaker or stronger or more robust than it was with you? And so what's happening is that we're passing on weaker and weaker and weaker genes. That's why you're seeing autism rates skyrocket. That's why you're seeing autoimmune diseases skyrocket. That's why you're seeing other chronic degenerative, which is literally your genes degening themselves, rates continue to rise and rise and rise. And that's why it's really important for all of us to take that ownership onto ourselves and have enough self-love that you will take care of yourself. Because a lot of times people are, just think, oh, well, my mom or dad lived so long and I'll live so long, or I don't have any dreams, or I don't love myself. So, why take care of yourself? We're all going to die anyway. And that is such a defeatist mentality that's been imbued to us through culture and through media, that we buy into that and we don't think that we are significant beings worthy of love. And if we don't think that, then we're not going to take care of ourselves. There's something magical that happens when you decide to say, you know what, I'm going to do my sauna today, even though I don't want to. Or I'm going to do my rebounder today, even though I don't want to. Or I'm going to do my workout, even though I don't want to. Or I'm going to get outside, even though I have no time. There's something magical that happens because on a deep subconscious level, you're telling yourself, I'm worth it and I'm worthy of being here. And if you're worthy of being here, you must have something worthy of being here for, right? You must have some greater work that you are connected to or that you want to do. And so this is what health allows us to do, is to be able to do that work. And so I'm tired myself of seeing friends and family members dying of cancer. We're in a little condo, and on the other side of the wall is Kate's grandfather, whose wife is currently dying of brain cancer. And so, it's like, it's everywhere. It's everywhere you look. And it's to the point where it's becoming an epidemic in our culture. And just by ignoring it and continuing to live a toxic lifestyle isn't going to make it so that it's going to go away just by snapping your fingers and closing your eyes and burying your head in the sand and thinking, oh, if I don't pay attention to it, it's going to go away. It's affecting all of us. And I really, really want to make it clear that there are tools that we have. Now, that's not to say that there are, the chemotherapy and the radiation and surgery and stuff like that doesn't work, because my mom, it depends what you consider or you define work as. My mom was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in 1995, and chemotherapy worked for her. She's still alive today. Her body's been broken down. She's had several cancers since then, but she's made it through all of them. And I don't know if you consider that to be work. And then there's people on the natural side who do 100% natural things, but they're not able to overcome the toxic lifestyle that led them up to that point. And so the natural things don't work. But regardless, it doesn't matter if what works or what doesn't work. It's not like we're attached to saving a life. What I'm trying to promote here on the radio show is that we have other choices that are not just choices that are on the table, but they're viable choices. These are choices that have worked for millions of people around the world since the beginning of time. And I don't like it. I don't mind when people do chemotherapy and radiation. That's fine. Everyone gets to have their journey. I don't judge anyone for that. And in fact, if they do that, if they're a family member of mine, I support them in that, because the best thing that can happen for them is to get reinforced belief that system is going to work. So I don't, I fully allow people to do whatever they want to do. What I don't like is when doctors and online outfitters and different places now are censoring news. I don't like it when people try to convince other people that there's only one way to do something, because there's not. There's many ways to shear a sheep, and there's many ways to overcome health conditions. And that's my message. Regardless of whether or not something works or not, we should all have the freedom and we should all have the ability to choose any type of treatment that we want. And not be lied to and given false statistics about the success rate and things like that. So That's part of my mission here at Extreme Health Radio. It's a big mission, and it's something that I'm very connected to, and it's part of my mission to help educate everybody about this, about what's going on. Finally, a couple things I want to tell you guys about. I was mentioning before dog food or dogs living with cancer, and now it's almost up to 100%. One of the things I want to tell you guys, what we feed our dogs is a product called Barf World Raw Dog Food. Now, this is a dog food that is, what's the right word? Meticulously sourced would be the way I would describe it, because what it does is it includes the carcass of the whole animal. So it's not just the chemicals in the kibble that are an issue, or the food that you get in a can that's got all that toxic chemicals on the inside of the can from the aluminum and things. It's not just the absence of that, but what it is the muscle meat, the organ meat, and the bone. And so, the bone is very alkaline. The muscle meat is very acidic. A dog would normally consume all of that. And then a dog would normally get its vegetation in the wild from consuming the organs, and namely mostly the intestines of the animal they just killed, which would have the vegetation in it. So it's really important to get that balance. And so we like to give our dogs raw dog food, and it's called the Barf World. If you guys want to check it out, just be on the lookout for increased energy levels, be on the lookout for better sleep, less stool, or a more healthier, well-formed stool, that they say, a better coat, shinier coat, more energy. It's just an awesome product. And so I want to tell you guys about it if you guys are interested. If you have a dog, consider getting them some Barf World Raw Dog Food. And then the other thing I wanted to tell you guys about too was this is more of a self-care thing, but it's called the Good Morning, Good Evening Qigong. Qigong is an ancient exercise that people around the world have been using for thousands and thousands of years. And it's a moving, active, dynamic meditation. And what's beautiful about it is that it allows you to ground yourself to not just who you are in the essence and your sort of chi, your life force energy, but it grounds you to the earth as well. And so it's an awesome practice. Peter Ragnar and Tristan Truscott has been on our show, Truscott, a number of times, talked about the healing aspects of doing something like a moving meditation. I like to do the sitting meditation, which is great, but there's also a very powerful place that I think is really tremendous for having a moving meditation in your life, because what it does is it allows you to connect the movements of your body to the healing aspects of what's going on when you follow the 10 minutes in the morning and the 10 minutes in the evening. It's just a powerful practice that I would recommend. I mean, this is why all of the yogis around the world, Qigong is a part of all of their ancient longevity systems. And so I'm a big fan of this. I do it 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening. It's a tremendous program, and it's a way to build your chi in the morning and to develop a character and to develop your life force sort of in the morning. And then in the evening, it's a calming way of grounding yourself to the earth and getting ready for bedtime and sleep and conserving that life force energy so that you can use that to heal while you're sleeping. It's really it sounds woo-woo, it sounds out there, but it's an awesome exercise, and I highly recommend it. So if you guys are interested, you're watching on YouTube, there's links down at the bottom. It's a one-time purchase. You can put on all your devices. You can take it with you anywhere you go, hotel rooms, traveling. You just they kind of lead you up to it. And so the final lessons are 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening, and they go through a series of different movements that you can do that I think are just an amazing way to go to bed and go to sleep and to bring in that life force energy. And these are the types of things that we're going to have to start doing now if we're going to be exposed to 5G, right? Is to really focus on that inner work, the inner game, as people call it. So, yeah, so go check those out if you guys are interested. I hope you guys are enjoying the show. I really apologize for the issue earlier, and even the way the show ended. For some reason, he just stopped being there. So I apologize for that. Our show doesn't normally work like that. We usually, have a wrap up and say goodbye to the guest and things like that. But go check out diversehealthservices.com, and I do believe that he works with people, Dr. Tent that is, with people on Skype. So make sure to go check that out if you want to get a nutritional assessment. I may be wrong about that, but go over to his website and see if he does. I'm pretty sure he does. Chris says, thank you, Justin, for having Dr. Tent on. You're the best. We miss Kate. I miss Kate too. I hope to get Kate back on the show. For a lot of you guys that are new listeners, Kate, my wife, my co-host, hasn't been on the show for like 6 months or more, probably a year, because of she had a really challenging pregnancy, and now she's dealing with twins, and so it's really a big endeavor for us. So we're gonna have to figure out a way to get her back on the show, but I appreciate that. So anyway, I love you guys very, very much. You guys are awesome. Jennifer, Big Fat Mama, Tom is here, French Wee Wee is here, Angie is here, Plant-Based Kate is here. Oh gosh, so many of you guys in the chat room. This is so much fun. I wish I could stay longer. I have a lot more to do at home. Rain Country is here. Nice. So this is really great. This is awesome. One final thing, guys. If you guys really are looking for some support on your health journey and are looking for some really cutting-edge information, I highly recommend checking out the Extreme Health Academy. I'm telling you guys, this is the best place to make friends, to get the inspiration, motivation, all that cool stuff to take your health journey to the next level. I'm telling you guys, there's courses in there. There's monthly courses that we release every single month. We've got about 12, 13 of them. These are courses that should be taught in schools, but they're not, unfortunately. I don't know why, because I think they want to keep us sick. That's my opinion. They don't want to teach us how to take care of the human frame. Because it makes more money for the system if we're sick, right? So this is all high level, like 3, 4, 5 hour courses on everything from building your immune system to improving your digestion, to preventing cancer, to building your hormone system. I mean, we've got courses on just about everything, and we're releasing new courses every single month. So if that is interesting to you, let me give you a free little coupon, and it's a 14-day trial. So there's no, I think you do put in your credit card, but you can cancel day 13 if you don't like it. But check it out. I'm telling you guys, and come and tag me. We have a whole community forum in there where people are sharing information and really asking others, people in the community, what's working, sharing what's working, what's not working. It's just it's a cool place. It's a place that I wanted to create when I first got into health around 2003. And my whole life I wanted to have a community forum where people can help each other, where people can share insights, can share experiences, to share protocols with each other, to build each other up, but then also get tremendous amounts of information that is practical, applicable information that they can start applying to their lives. And so this is like the next level of what the radio show is. So if that's something that interests you, if you go to extremehealthacademy.com, enter the code EHR14, that'll give you a free 14-day trial. So go check that out. Tag me in the forums you just put @ Justin Stellman, and let me know that you joined, and we can work together, and I can share some ideas and things and resources and help as many of you guys out as I possibly can in the forums. I get bombarded with emails, as you can imagine, from people, and I simply cannot respond to email. I respond to some of them if I have time, but with twins, with the Extreme Health Academy, with Extreme Health Radio, I simply just can't get back to everybody, and I wish I could. But in the forums, I typically get back to just about everybody. And if I don't get back to you, somebody else will. And so it's just an awesome, awesome place. And I think in the future, we're going to need communities like this, because you're not going to get this from mainstream media. And you're definitely not going to be able to get the things that we can talk about in a private community. We're not going to be able to get that in the public anymore, because they're cracking down. Like you were just saying in the chat here, Pinterest is now banning stuff. Amazon is banning stuff. Facebook is banning stuff. I mean, you're not going to be able to get information. YouTube is banning stuff. A lot of the content that we have has either been pulled, or they're telling me that I can't put an advertisement on there. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. And this is how we support the radio show. And so, all these things are being taken away from us. And to me, it seems like a concerted effort. It's very deliberate. And it looks like this is happening. It's very deliberate as to what's going on today. You're seeing censorship happen everywhere. Netflix just removed a movie called Root Cause, all about talking about the connection between root canals and cancers. The ADA doesn't like that. And so Netflix pulled that. There's a California representative that sent an email to Jeff Bezos to pull down certain movies. I think Vaxxed and a couple others. And so this is just modern day book burning. It's modern day censorship. And I think more and more we're going to need to get ourselves into private communities. I really do, because that way we can share information freely, and share things that actually work, and give people support, advice, protocols, inspiration, motivation, education, all these things that we can't do in the public anymore. It's just becoming a weird, bizarre culture that we're living in. So I'd recommend check out the Extreme Health Academy. Come join us. Come join the movement. Come start working on your body, make it a healthier place to live. And I really, really enjoy it, and it's so much fun. So if you're watching on YouTube, there's a link down in the description below for that, with the free coupon code as well, EHR14. So make sure to do that. Anyway, guys, love you. Have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday. Let me check out what our show schedule is really quick. Had that playing in the background there. Upcoming guests next Monday, we've got Nathan Walls, I believe, coming up. That's going to be a fun show on Monday. Katie Singer, how do we shrink the internet's footprint? And then Dr. Sam Byrne about holistic eye care next Friday, in a week from today. So love you guys. This was episode 664. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you like it, tweet about it, send it out to your Facebook friends, tag us on Instagram, repost our post. I would greatly appreciate that. That would be tremendous. So thank you all very, very much. We love you, love you, love you. And we'll see you on Monday at 10:45 a.m. Pacific time. Have a great weekend.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog is discussed in the context of numerous conditions, it can be dangerous to take action based on any information in this blog, or to start any health program without first consulting a health professional. The content found here is for informational purposes only, and is in no way intended as medical advice, as a substitute for medical counseling, or as a treatment/cure for any disease or health condition, and nor should it be continued as such. Always work with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, prescription drug use, lifestyle, or exercise activities. This information is provided as is, and the reader/viewer assumes all risks from the use, non-use, or misuse